It was one of those blisteringly hot days in July, where the sun clings to you like an old friend that just won't take the hint and leave. I arrived in Royston, Hertfordshire, with a kind of weary curiosity. I'd heard of the place in passing, a market town that sits neatly on the crossroads of history, tucked between bigger, more glamorous destinations like Bishop's Stortford and Letchworth Garden City. But I wasn't here for glamour. I was here to explore the quieter charms of Royston, to see what this old town had to offer on a lazy summer day. The town's name is intriguing on its own. Royston, originally Roystown, is said to come from Lady Rose, or Rohasia, who established a cross here in the 12th century. Over time, the area became a stopping point for travellers, eventually evolving into the bustling market town it is today. Yet, despite its roots in movement and trade, Royston feels like a place where time has slowed, where the hustle of nearby Letchworth or the more polished air of Bishop's Stortford hasn't quite reached. The train station is the town's quiet lifeline, a vital artery connecting Royston to the fast pace of London and Cambridge. On the platform, commuters rush past, their minds already elsewhere. But for me, stepping out into the town felt like stepping into a different world, one less concerned with deadlines and more with routine. I wandered through the streets, the air thick with the smell of warm tarmac, the occasional breeze doing little to relieve the sticky heat. The summer sun bathed everything in a golden light, making the town feel warmer than its character usually suggests. Royston has always been a town shaped by its geography. Its position on Ermine Street, the ancient Roman road, made it a natural meeting point for travellers centuries ago. You can still feel that legacy in its layout, a town that seems to be waiting for people to pass through, to pause briefly before moving on to somewhere else. But today, fewer people are passing through. It's a town where life has slowed, where the historical transition from market town to modern commuter hub hasn't exactly brought the same buzz of activity you find in Letchworth or Bishop's Stortford. There's no polished, chic atmosphere here. Instead, Royston is modest, unpretentious, sturdy, like the people who call it home. The local shops reflect this sturdy character. As I walked through the high street, there were no fancy boutiques or trendy coffee shops trying to draw in tourists. Instead, you find an assortment of practical stores, hardware shops, a couple of independent grocers, and a scattering of tea rooms that have been around longer than most of the customers. The people, friendly but not overly outgoing, go about their day without much fuss. It's the kind of place where you can nod at a stranger in passing, but no one's in a hurry to strike up conversation, and yet there's a comfort in that quiet familiarity. The Royston Museum is a small but thoughtful affair. It's not the kind of place that overwhelms you with grand exhibitions, but it's cozy, filled with artifacts that tell the town's story in a straightforward, unpretentious way. There's a display on Royston's agricultural roots, with old tools and farming equipment that harken back to the days when the town relied on the surrounding countryside. As you walk through, it becomes clear that Royston's economy once driven by agriculture, has shifted with the times. The arrival of the railway made it a commuter town, and while some light industry remains, many of the locals now rely on jobs in nearby Cambridge or London. And then there's the Royston Cave, perhaps the town's most unusual claim to fame. Hidden beneath the town's surface, this man-made cavern is filled with mysterious carvings that date back centuries. No one knows for sure who carved them or why, but there's something undeniably eerie about it. Standing inside, the cool air a welcome break from the relentless heat outside, you can almost feel the weight of history pressing in on you. It's a stark contrast to the sun-soaked streets above, a reminder that Royston holds secrets, even if it doesn't always shout about them. Priory Memorial Gardens is a peaceful spot, offering a bit of shade and respite from the heat. It's the kind of park that feels like the heart of the town, where families come to picnic and older couples sit on benches watching the world go by. It's lovely, really, but understated, much like the town itself. There's no grandeur here, just well-kept lawns and a few flower beds, quietly beautiful in their own right. As I sat there, sipping a bottle of water I'd picked up from one of the corner shops, I found myself comparing Royston to its neighbours. Letchworth, with its wide avenues and garden city design, feels planned, almost utopian in its layout. It's a town that was built with a vision, a place where every tree and bench seems to have been carefully considered. Bishop Stortford, on the other hand, has a kind of affluence to it, a town that's close enough to London to catch some of the capital's chic sensibilities, with its upmarket shops and bustling market squares. Royston, by comparison, doesn't aspire to be chic or polished. It's not a town trying to reinvent itself or impress anyone. It's content with what it is, a solid, unassuming place that's grown organically over centuries. There's a kind of honesty in that, though it's easy to see why someone looking for more excitement or sophistication might pass it by. It's not a town you fall in love with at first sight, nor is it a place that will make you linger longer than planned, but there's a charm in its simplicity, a kind of quiet dignity in the way it goes about its business. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, I realized that while Royston might not be the most exciting place I'd visited, it had left an impression on me. It's a town that doesn't try to be anything other than what it is, modest, practical, and deeply connected to its past. And while I may not rush back, I'll remember it for its unpretentiousness, its quiet history, and the way it sits, content, in the warm summer sun.